Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quad Exhibition Explorations, a virtual tour of our exhibitions from our recent gallery shows in the main gallery. My name is Peter Bonnell. I'm the senior curator at Quad, and today we are going to venture through Megan Broadmeadow's exhibition from 2019, from last year. And I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the artist herself, Megan Broadmeadow. Hi, Meg.
Hi.
I'm also joined by Judith Carlton, who's the director of Southwark Park Galleries in London. Hi, Jude.
Hello.
I'm also joined by Lexi Stevens, the visual arts producer at Green Man Festival, all partners in this amazing project, Seek, Pray, Advance, that we worked on together with Megan. So we're going to venture into the space, and I'm going to be the one moving us around, hopefully not too disorientatingly. So we're going to go into this main area first, to the blobs, and this work was primarily from the Southwark Park Gallery show, the first show on the tour. So, Meg, do you want to give us a brief introduction into the Seek, Pray, Advance project, where it came from, what inspired you to do it?
Yeah, okay. So the project has been kind of ongoing for a long time with a lot of research beforehand. It started through a kind of discovery of what you could call extra religious societies, so people who kind of amalgamate different kinds of religious beliefs, but also that with extraterrestrials, and speaking to voices and channeling messages from other planets. So I sort of started looking into these religions and their leaders and kind of gathering information and to build up a sort of, I guess, my interpretation of some of these ideas and beliefs, or but also at the same time looking at sort of, classic sci-fi film sets and sort of sci-fi tropes, I suppose, if you like, to create what I kind of think of as a kind of walkable through collage of sci-fi.
So you worked together. I remember, Judith, you came and you got in touch with me, and I already was aware of Megan's work.
Yeah.
And you began to develop the project in the initial stages with Meg. What attracted you to it?
Well, I had a feeling you would know Megan, or at least be into Megan's work, so it was brilliant to hear that you would definitely on Peter's radar. I had a feeling. I basically was blown away by Megan's Goldsmiths degree show, so I had to make a note here. It was 2014, it wasn't even that long ago really, but so I saw, The Pleasure Prison, which in itself is one of the best titles I've ever heard. I was in there for a good hour. Mainly, I was kind of overwhelmed by the whole scenario. In brief, because it's not what we're talking about today, but Megan, for a degree piece, built basically like what felt like a huge nightclub in the bowels of the baths at Goldsmiths. And it was so disorientating, joyful and frightening. And it was one of the best things to just watch how people behaved in the space. Some people just couldn't fathom out depth of space because of how Megan had used light, how disorientating her use of sound was. It was really cleverly, like the room was choreographed in such a way you weren't quite sure where you were meant to go, but you kind of were led through. And I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I haven't since. And I'd never seen an artist like Megan before. So as soon as I moved to Southwark Park Galleries in 2015, Megan was the first artist I contacted. And I've checked my emails and it was definitely 2015. And was desperate to meet this person. What Megan did with us, all three of us, is still one of the most amazing projects I've ever been part of. And it was a joy to go back through this scan of the show actually with you in Quad. Knowing the work so well at Southwark Park Galleries as well, when we all came up for your opening at Quad, it was like seeing a whole new world. It was amazing.
Well, I should say as well, the amazing space at Southwark Park Galleries. I remember going into it and seeing this huge screen with the cloud, that foreboding cloud sort of advancing towards the viewer. But it was great that we were able to bring the as Megan, as you call them, Megan, the blobs, but those have video works on them, and hopefully we'll be able to show some of those. But they sort of show the ordinary person as they become, if I'm correct, being viewed by these other beings from other worlds. Can you just tell us a bit how that leads people into the show?
Yeah, I guess partly I wanted to make the show a bit from the perspective of like the aliens, like looking down, so you're kind of going into the alien sort of territory, which is also kind of also a psychological space. This whole thing is supposed to be kind of like nodding towards the kind of psychological spaces that might be occupied when someone starts to believe in stuff that maybe feels really far-fetched to everyone else, but is very real to those people. So the blobs, as I say, they're alien observation centres. So this first stage, but obviously they've got different technology out in space. So, they use flesh and DNA to monitor people rather than just, a video camera. So the first on the blobs, you've got different people kind of walking in the kind of classic sci-fi locations on their own, observed sort of from above by the aliens, and at a certain point they do freeze. The film videos are kind of made in a way that there's kind of like a kind of organic feel to them, so there's kind of like pulsating feel to them, as if you're like looking through an eye or something. So yeah, and I was kind of like really picking up on this idea of an ordinary person as the lead character. There's two which come out of it, a male and a female, both of the same character, and again it's kind of also referencing like Jungian philosophy about the self. So and the ordinary person is something that is everyone in his thought theories. We all are the ordinary person. We all have an anima, I guess, or another. There's other things that live within our sort of subconscious. So maybe should I talk a little bit about the cave video, because you've gone to that?
Yeah, I've gone to. I should also say, Lexi, I think it was maybe around the time that Quad were involved. This sort of similar time that you and Green Man were involved as well, if I'm right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I run an artist residency through the festival, and part of that is bringing in artists we want to work with in the future for a bit of a kind of site visit, and to do some development activity in terms of making work in that kind of context. And I, similarly to you, Judith, had seen Megan's work and was just really kind of like, wow, this person is kind of incredible. Mm-hmm. How do I get to meet her? And it turned out we actually had a lot in common in terms of, experience and understanding of that world, which is the kind of outdoor sort of entertainment landscape. And I was really fascinated to kind of see the ways that Megan was using sort of transferable skills that she did, the way she was making her work and kind of, directing these huge, immersive situations. And I was just really kind of excited and fascinated by that. I really wanted to work together, and it just so happened that Megan had the beginnings of this project and said to us, well, would this be something I could feed into the potential commissioning process at Green Man? Would you be interested in that? So from our perspective, it really came from the artist, and we're an artist-led program. So again, for me, that was really fantastic. And to work with Megan's two sort of existing brilliant partners from across the UK was really exciting move for us.
Well, you've said so eloquently the ways in which I was attracted to Meg's work, working with great partners, a great artist, and I personally absolutely adore immersive spaces that transform the viewer in the gallery space. And Megan, should we talk a little bit about Sheol, if I've got the title right, the first major film that you were shown at Southwark Park Galleries?
Yeah. So I guess, very quickly, I'll just quickly touch upon. So, the show has toured and it's kind of mutated, and some of the work was seen in CGP and Southwark Park. And then, elements from it have gone around, but each time it's been shown, it's been different. So this iteration at Quad was like a new reworking of lots of key elements. And in Southwark Park, it was all light and white, and in Derby and Quad it was all dark. So and with a new element added in, and then I'll talk about how Green Man's piece slots in now through the film. So The Sheol film. Sheol is again sort of a religious kind of space. It's in the old ancient sort of Hebrewic text. There's different maps and charts of like the different spaces, which is what this exhibition is also looking about. So Sheol is like the underbelly, the space where you go down to sort of pre going up into heaven or whatever. So there's a few different, the way in which they understood space, both psychologically and physically, was kind of different in the earlier times. So yeah, Sheol takes its title from that underbelly space. So in this scene of the story, I suppose, this is the film where the ordinary person and the one lead character, but the film's filmed twice, male actor, female actor, both everything done twice, because obviously why make things easy? But so basically, yeah, the journey of these two characters, the one character, they kind of sort of go in between dream state and everyday state, and it's kind of based on these experiences that people have where they might. It seems like the religious leaders, once they open the floodgates to kind of these extraterrestrial beings, and they can kind of encounter them in different spaces, and they have a journey of kind of transformation from a normal person to a religious leader. So this is the outlining story, I guess, within the show. So in Sheol, this is where they are at home, and then these characters are kind of coming and taking over them, and they're falling into the influence, and they're going through their transformation. And this is a kind of like, I wanted to explore that because you never actually really hear much about that in these people's stories. It's like, boom, we're this, and we're like, and there's a whole big gap of sort of story that happens. So I guess that was kind of like, what actually did happen to them when they had this kind of episode, or we might call breakdown, or maybe it is transcendence. So as it was the psychological space of the brain that I'm kind of going through. But at the end of it, they have a horrible traumatic time. They go through a cave, all sorts of crazy things happen to them. And right at the end, they meet the mother of all personas, who's the kind of key character, who gives them a box. And that's where the whole episode 1 ended.
So as we were introduced to the project at Southwark Park, the ordinary person being watched going through this transformative stage and splitting into two, male and female, as you say. We should also say that the amazing spacecraft flew and then landed at the gallery from Southwark Park. We will introduce in quite a large way into the box in the second gallery here at Quad that landed at Green Man in a moment. But should we just take a moment to take a trip through the spatial corridors? And I should say to those who are watching this in the scan, and you can go through the scan by V21 Artspace, and the lights in this space at Quad and at Southwark Park Galleries flickered on and off. You can see the person, of course, would be reflected in the mirror, and there's the actual scan camera that V21 used to document the exhibition. So you can imagine a person standing in front of that. But do you want to say a few words about the spaceship corridor, Meg, and Judith perhaps as well?
Well, as I said before, I got really lost in this scan, like I did, even though it was in our gallery that I knew, like this part of the exhibition blew all our minds, because again, we're in a gallery space at the park or at Quad. I know the galleries at Quad well as well. And just all of the different, all of these gestures and clever tricks you play with us in this corridor. It's almost like spinning someone around and making them like trying to kick a ball afterwards. You really mess with our minds in what's ultimately just a mirrored corridor. It's you can't find your way out the first time. At Quad, we got lost. We knew it. We'd walked through it so many times. The lights, the sounds, so the sci-fi choir that you developed for all of this project as well. How you use the sound, and how Matt, your amazing sound engineer, really twisted us as we walked through this corridor, and there's like this throb of all the lights and the sound swells, and it kind of leads you around the corner, but you're still not quite sure where to go. Nobody believed this was in our gallery when they came to our show. they thought they knew our gallery so well, and just this as a mechanism really confused people and really transports you somewhere else entirely.
Absolutely. So Meg, in terms of what of the spaceship being in the exhibition, and in the case of Quad and at Southwark Park as well, it was a way of transforming people from one place to the next. And I should also mention, if we can share images of the amazing snake's head doorway entrance at Southwark Park. That I'd also want, if we had more time, I'd like to discuss, Megan, your sort of inspiration and influences of 60s, 70s sci-fi movie sets and that sort of element that comes into the show, although you do it so beautifully well. But can you just talk briefly about the spaceship area and what that meant to you in terms of the project?
Yeah, I guess it is that kind of like transitional space, disorientation, and really kind of like trying to like build immersive spaces. I mean, I worked quite a while in immersive theatre and to building stuff on site, like site-specific stuff, and like and so it's a bit sort of psychological theatre, if you like, and you know, this kind of disorientation thing is really key to kind of like getting people to go under levels and take them out of themselves a little bit. So in order for them to kind of be kind of more a part of the experience, I use mirrors quite a lot. I mean, it's really effective. You put one by a door and half the people don't come in. So you've got to kind of like, they think they've seen it all and they go out again. And you're like, no. I've seen that before. So yeah, it's a really good kind of sort of device, I suppose, for pulling people under a little bit further than they might normally go. If you just, we did have the corridor at the entrance at Southwark Park. We moved it to the middle. I moved it to the middle. For this one, just felt it didn't need. There was a bit of a more cavernous type feel to the first part of the show, so it felt like actually they're getting under, and it's quite nice to make that transition in between the two, from the lab to from the planet, which was something different that we'd done before, because the cave was a bit more in Southwark Park. The first initiation, there was a cave room which we didn't use, or we changed because it could fit within the space. So it's all about designing the show for the gallery space as well. Each one is like very much built with the building in mind and the architecture and how it can kind of work.
You did that really well with Quad. It's just like Quad's such a vast gallery, and I've seen it in so many different iterations. But as you were working on the plans for this iteration, the final chapter, I was thinking, how's she going to do this? I knew you'd be able to like fill it, but in terms of these kind of zones, you create all of your installations that I've experienced have had this kind of zone, almost not like a computer game, but you have to kind of go through. You can't really make that many decisions as well. It's quite a controlled, but the experience isn't controlled. But how you traverse the different zones, I think, is really clever.
Yeah, it's because there is a narrative unfolding, whether you realise it or not, there is one. So the idea is like getting people to lead them through the space to get them in a kind of journey. There is a little bit of free, they can meander, but very much wanted them to go that way round.
The transitions are so evident, and then as you come out of that space, you come into this big area, big cavernous area, as you say, of Quad's main gallery, into the laboratory, but you're confronted by this object, the box, which I should say comes to Quad complete with mud, direct from Green. I mean, Lexi, could you and Meg, could you talk briefly about how this box landed at Green Man and how it developed from Southwark Park Galleries and the augmented reality works that were attached to it as well?
Shall I start off just say where it was cited and stuff, Megan? You can pick up with the exciting stuff. So it was, we have a little pine copse, which is sort of hidden away at the back of the walled garden, which is one of the places we have stages at Green Man. And it's a kind of, it's a sort of main thoroughfare from our main stage through around the back of the site. And it's quite kind of calm and peaceful. And there's a little clearing just in front of that pine copse So we situated Megan's box just on the corner of that so that you could see it kind of steaming. There was a smoke machine that was letting out plumes of smoke from the top. So as you kind of came away from seeing a band, you were kind of drawn up the hill to this mysterious object that was kind of sitting there, giving no explanation for itself whatsoever. And through the circle at the front, you could watch the series of films that were inside. So those films, I think, changed every day. And at times, if you came at the right time, maybe the sci-fi choir were there with the box. There was lots of kind of odd things going on. So it really kind of mystified people. They kind of just took a pause from the festival activity and were just like, what is this other world that I could step into, which was the content that Megan had created for that.
Yeah, so I guess the box is another character in the story, and this kind of object that is deliberately kind of quite ambiguous as to what it actually is. Peter says, which it is referencing a real life historical object from an extraterrestrial religion. But I've sort of kind of neutralised it or empowered it in a different way as a sort of art object, I guess. So it can. The characters don't know what to do with it. They don't know why they've got it. And the films actually that I made from Green Man, which I think you can see on the TV there. There's a still there of them. So the films that I made for Green Man specifically show those two characters in the real world, right in the middle of London, with this box just going. That stage of like the trying to kind of convince people of this new discovery or this new kind of outlook in life, or this thing that has suddenly become super important to them, but they don't understand it. People they are misunderstood. So that's kind of taking that element of this religious leader's journey, I suppose, is this gift, which the knowledge is a gift, or the box is a gift. Which only they really can truly believe in, although they've got to convince the people to believe in it to get into their next stage. So, that was the sort of about Green Man. I really wanted it to be like a storytelling, a narrator. So I had a video screen in it, and it was telling its story in some ways. There was also some puppets inside it, just me, which opened up. The top of it opened up, and it changed every day. It was pretty,
It had a sort of process of kind of destructing itself.
Yes,
if I remember rightly. So towards the end, by the end of that process, it was kind of just the shell of what was there before.
Yeah, there was panels that came off it, and it was like it was like it was cracking open. There was light, smoke, puppets, you name it.
We can talk a little about the vortex. So people stood in front of this, and you can see the camera itself has activated what was a vortex that you sort of, it's like something from Doctor Who, and it had a gentleman floating in the vortex in sunglasses. But this idea of influences even from 80s sci-fi, Flight of the Navigator or Independence Day, with the plastic sheeting creating this laboratory, the ducts, the air ducts, the foil ducts. But one of the things that we really wanted to do at Quad, and it's not a great thing to really show. We've only literally got a few minutes to talk about this, and it's the new VR work that was commissioned above the firmament. Can you talk briefly about that, Megan? How it tied the elements of the project together was kind of the end point?
Yeah, so it is the end point, and it's the chance, because as the show goes on, basically, hopefully, the audience will start to feel like they are part of this. They're being watched, they're being monitored. They are one of the sort of performers in this whole narrative, which they kind of always have been. And the VR was like the point when they put the headpiece on and they meet the mother of all personas again. And she's like, it's your turn now. You're going off now into space. And so the audience goes up and takes the place almost of the ordinary person in the VR. They go up, they have these experiences, they transcend, and they meet the ordinary people right at the end, who are in their highest form of glory. They actually got to where they said they were going to go to. So believe. And
maybe one thing, just to start to wrap it up, is that you were Quad's International Digital Fellow, and we were able to, with our amazing colleague Darius Powell to help you start to develop your work in the digital realm. And I know you've gone on to do an amazing installation recently at Fact in Liverpool. So I'm going to, unfortunately, wrap it up there, because I could talk to you guys forever. And Megan, it was just such a pleasure working with you on this exhibition. And the same, Jude and Lexi. Thanks to V21 Artspace for producing this scan. Thanks to Arts Council England for all their funding, and Derby City Council in particular. So thank you all for listening. If you listen to this while the pandemic is on, stay safe and well. Stay safe and well anyway. Thank you guys so much for taking part in this. Lexi, Jude, Megan, take care everybody. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.